The Bible says in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. Today, I want to talk to you about vision, not just any vision, but the vision God gives to those who seek him. Every great move of God has started with a vision. When Moses stood before the burning bush, God gave him a vision to lead his people out of bondage. When Nehemiah saw the broken walls of Jerusalem, God gave him a vision to rebuild. When Jesus stood before the disciples, he cast a vision that would change the world. But today, many people are wandering without purpose. They chase after the things of this world, money, fame, pleasure, but they have no vision from God. And when there's no vision, life becomes empty. It doesn't matter how much success you achieve, how much wealth you gain without God's vision, your soul will remain thirsty. The Bible says where there is no vision, the people perish. Without vision, life becomes empty, directionless, and without meaning. We see it all around us, people wandering, searching, striving, yet never finding true fulfillment. They chase after success, after wealth, after power, but in the end, their hearts are still restless. Why? Because they are living without the vision God is for them. From the very beginning, God has given his people vision. When he called Abraham, he gave him a vision of a nation that would be blessed. When he called Moses, he gave him a vision to lead his people out of slavery. When he called the prophets, he gave them a vision to declare his truth. And when Jesus came, he gave his disciples a vision to take the gospel to the ends of the earth. But today, so many people are living without that vision. They wake up, go through their routines, and end their day without any real sense of purpose. They go to work, come home, turn on the television, and then do it all over again. And deep down, they wonder, is this all there is? Some try to fill the emptiness with success. They believe that they just climb higher, earn more, gain more recognition, then they will feel satisfied. But success without vision leads to exhaustion. You can have everything the world offers and still feel empty inside. Others turn to pleasure, thinking if they just enjoy life more, if they numb the pain, if they drown out the questions, they won't have to face the truth. But pleasure without vision leads to regret. And still, there are those who live in fear. They feel God stirring something inside of them, but they hesitate. They think, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not qualified. And so they stay where they are, never stepping into the vision God has for them. But let me tell you something today. God has a vision for your life. You were not created to simply exist. You were created for something greater. You were made for a purpose. And that purpose is not found in chasing after the things of this world, but in following the vision God has placed before you. Abraham was just a man in a foreign land. When God called him, he had no idea where he was going, but he followed God's vision. Moses was a shepherd in the wilderness when God called him to deliver his people. He didn't think he was capable, but he followed God's vision. Peter was an ordinary fisherman, but when Jesus called him, he left everything behind and followed. And now the same God who gave vision to Abraham, to Moses, to Peter, he is calling you. Right now, he is speaking to your heart saying, I have more for you. Maybe you've been ignoring that voice. Maybe you've been running from it. Maybe you've been too afraid to step out in faith. But I'm here to tell you, when you surrender to God's vision, your life will never be the same. When you walk in his vision, you will find purpose. When you follow his calling, you will find joy. When you trust his plan, you will find peace. It won't always be easy. There will be challenges. There will be obstacles, but when God gives you a vision, he also gives you the strength to fulfill it. And maybe you're here today and you've never given your life to Jesus. You've been searching for purpose, but nothing has satisfied you. My friend, the greatest vision you can ever receive is the vision of salvation. The moment you surrender your life to Christ, everything changes. Your past is forgiven, your future is secured, and your purpose is made clear. So today, will you say yes to God's vision? Will you step into his plan for your life? Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, and use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. The Bible's filled with stories of men and women who received a vision from God and followed it, no matter the costs. From the Old Testament to the New, we see that every great move of God began with a vision. It wasn't their own ambition, their own plans, or their own desires that led them. It was the hand of God guiding them towards something greater than themselves. And today, God is still giving his people vision. The question is, will you follow it? Look at Moses. He was just a shepherd. living in the wilderness, tending his flock, when one day he saw a burning bush that was not consumed. And from that bush, God spoke. He gave Moses a vision to stand before Pharaoh, to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, to set the captives free. But Moses hesitated. He said, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? He doubted his ability. He saw his weaknesses. But God wasn't looking for ability. He was looking for obedience. And when Moses followed the vision, he saw the power of God work through him. Plagues came upon Egypt, the Red Sea parted, and a nation was set free. Then there was Nehemiah. He was just a cupbearer to the king living in a foreign land when he heard the news that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down. And when he heard it, he wept, he mourned. But then God placed a vision in his heart, a vision to rebuild what had been destroyed. The task seemed impossible. The opposition was great. But Nehemiah did not back down. He trusted in God's vision. And in just 52 days, the walls of Jerusalem were rebuilt. What seemed impossible became possible because one man followed God's vision. And then there was Joseph. As a young boy, he had dreams, visions from God that one day he would rise to a position of great authority. But before that vision came to pass, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. He could have given up. He could have doubted. But he held on to the vision, and in time, God raised him up. He became second in command over all of Egypt, and through him, God saved an entire nation from famine. Peter was just a fisherman when Jesus called him. He was an ordinary man casting his nets, working his trade, when suddenly the Son of God said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. And Peter left everything behind. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew who was leading him. And because he followed that vision, he became a pillar of the early church, preaching the gospel, healing the sick, and leading thousands to Christ. Over and over, we see the same pattern. God gives vision, but it always requires faith. It always requires trust. It always requires stepping into the unknown. And that's where so many people hesitate. They hear God calling, but they say, I'm not ready. I'm not qualified. I'm too weak. I'm too broken. But if God could use a shepherd like Moses, a cupbearer like Nehemiah, a prisoner like Joseph, and a fisherman like Peter, then he can use you. Maybe you've been feeling something stirring in your heart. Maybe God has been showing you a vision, but fear has been holding you back. Maybe you've been waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect opportunity. But I want to tell you today, the time is now. If God has placed a vision in your heart, don't wait. Don't hesitate. Step out in faith. And maybe you're here today and you don't know what God's vision is for your life. You've been searching, wondering, waiting for direction. My friend, the greatest vision you can receive is the vision of salvation. When you give your life to Jesus, he gives you purpose, he gives you direction, he gives you a reason to live. So today, will you say yes to his call? Will you trust his vision? Will you step out in faith? Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. The world tells us that success is the key to happiness. It tells us that if we work hard enough, we make enough money, if we gain enough recognition, then we will finally feel fulfilled. People spend their lives chasing after things that they think will bring them meaning, bigger houses, better jobs, higher positions, but in the end, something is still missing. They climb to the top of the ladder only to find that it was leaning against the wrong wall. Because success without vision is empty, wealth without purpose is meaningless, and achievement without God leads to nothing. Look at the world around us. People are busier than ever, working harder, running faster, doing more, yet so many feel lost. They have everything the world says they need, but they still wake up with an emptiness inside. Why? Because they are chasing success instead of following God's vision. And when you live without vision, no amount of success will satisfy you. The Bible tells us about a man named Solomon. He had everything. He was the wealthiest king who ever lived. He had wisdom beyond measure. He had power, riches, fame, and all the pleasures the world could offer. But at the end of his life, do you know what he said? Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. He looked back at everything he had accomplished, and he realized it was meaningless because it was all temporary. It didn't last. It didn't satisfy. It didn't fulfill the deep hunger in his soul. And there are people today who are living that same reality. They work day and night to build their careers only to find that it does not bring them peace. They accumulate more and more, but it is never enough. They win the applause of the world, but inside they still feel alone. Because the things of this world will never replace the vision of God. You can gain the whole world and still lose your soul. But when God gives you a vision, it changes everything. It gives your life meaning beyond what this world can offer. It gives you a purpose that goes beyond temporary success. When you follow God's vision, you no longer have to chase after things that fade away because you are walking in something eternal. Look at the life of Paul. Before he met Christ, he had success. He was well educated, highly respected, a leader among his people. By the world's standards, he had made it. But then on the road to Damascus, he received a vision from God that changed the course of his life forever. And do you know what he said later? He said, I count everything as lost compared to the surpassing worth of knowing Christ. He realized that all his achievements meant nothing compared to the vision God had given him. And instead of chasing his own success, he spent the rest of his life spreading the gospel, planting churches, and changing the world. And now the same question comes to you. Are you chasing after worldly success, or are you following God's vision? Are you seeking things that will pass away, or are you walking in the purpose God has set before you? Maybe you've been running after the wrong things. Maybe you've been working tirelessly to build something that won't last. But today, God is calling you to something greater. He is calling you to follow him. The world will tell you to focus on yourself, to build your own kingdom, to seek your own glory. But Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. When you put him first, when you seek his vision, when you walk in his calling, he will take care of everything else. You don't have to strive. You don't have to chase after the things of this world. You just have to trust him. And maybe you're here today and you've never surrendered your life to Jesus. You've been searching, striving, chasing after success, but your soul is still empty. My friend, the greatest success you can ever have is knowing Christ. The greatest achievement is surrendering your life to him. The greatest fulfillment is walking in his vision. So today, will you say yes to his call? Will you stop chasing after the things that will fade and start walking in the vision that will last forever? Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. Fear has kept so many people from stepping into the vision God has for them. Doubt has stopped countless men and women from fulfilling their purpose. They feel the call of God in their hearts. They see the vision before them, but instead of moving forward in faith, they hesitate. They let fear whisper, you're not good enough. They let doubt say you will fail. They look at their weaknesses instead of looking at God's power. And so they stay where they are, never stepping into the greatness God has prepared for them. But let me tell you today, fear is a liar. Doubt is a thief. And if you listen to them, they will rob you of the life God has planned for you. The Bible is filled with people who had every reason to be afraid, every reason to doubt, but they chose to trust God instead. And because they stepped out in faith, they saw miracles happen. Look at Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he didn't feel qualified. He said, Lord, I am slow of speech. I am not eloquent. He was afraid to speak before Pharaoh. He doubted his ability. But God didn't choose Moses because he was strong. He chose him because he had a plan. And when Moses obeyed, the Red Sea parted and a nation was delivered. Look at Gideon. When the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior, Gideon didn't believe it. He was hiding in fear, unsure of himself. He said, I am the least in my family. How can I save Israel? But God wasn't looking at Gideon's weakness. He was looking at his own strength. And when Gideon trusted God, an army of 300 men defeated thousands. Look at Peter. He saw Jesus walking on water and he wanted to step out. He took that first step in faith, but then he saw the wind, he felt the waves, and fear took over. He began to sink, but Jesus reached out and lifted him up. And Peter learned that as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he could do the impossible. How many people today are like Moses, like Gideon, like Peter? How many feel the call of God but let fear hold them back? Some of you have felt something stirring in your heart. You felt God leading you, calling you to something greater. But instead of stepping forward, you've hesitated. You've let doubt creep in. You've let fear stop you. But listen to me, if God has given you a vision, he will give you the strength to fulfill it. He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. He doesn't ask you to rely on your own power. He asks you to trust in his. You may feel weak, but God is strong. You may feel unworthy, but God is faithful. You may feel afraid, but God has not given you a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And maybe you're wondering, what if I fail? Let me tell you, failure is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen is never trying. The worst thing that can happen is letting fear stop you from doing what God has called you to do. If Peter had never stepped out of the boat, he would have never known what it was like to walk on water. If Gideon had never picked up his sword, he would have never seen the victory. If Moses had never gone before Pharaoh, he would have never led his people to freedom. And now God is calling you. Maybe he is calling you to step into a new season, to walk into a new opportunity, to trust him like never before. Maybe he is calling you to start something, to build something, to lead something. And fear has been trying to stop you. Doubt has been trying to hold you back. But today I want to tell you, don't listen to the voice of fear. Listen to the voice of God. The greatest vision you can ever step into is the vision of salvation. If you have never given your life to Jesus, that is the first step. That is where true purpose begins. And if you have already made that decision, then it's time to walk in faith, to trust God completely, to step into his calling with boldness. So today, will you say yes? Will you trust him? Will you step past your fear and into his vision for your life? Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. There are no accidents in God's plan. You are not here by chance. You are not a mistake. Before you were even born, God had a purpose for your life. He saw you, he formed you, and he placed within you a unique calling. But too many people go through life believing that vision is for someone else, for the pastors, for the missionaries, for the leaders, but not for them. They believe they are too ordinary, too broken, too unworthy to be used by God. But let me tell you today, God has a vision for everyone. No one is excluded from his plan. He does not only call the strong, the talented, the qualified, he calls the willing. He calls those who will say, here I am, Lord, send me. Because the truth is, God doesn't just have a vision for the world, he has a vision for you. Think about David. He was just a shepherd boy, forgotten by his own family, tending to sheep in the fields. But God saw him. God had a vision for his life that no one else could see. And one day the shepherd boy stood before a giant with nothing but a sling and a few stones, while others saw an impossible battle. David saw victory. And because he trusted God's vision, he became a king. Think about Esther. She was an orphan living in a foreign land with no position, no power, no influence. But God had a vision for her life. He placed her in the palace, not for her own comfort, but for his purpose. And when the time came to save her people, she stepped forward in faith, knowing that she had been placed there for such a time as this. Think about the disciples. Fishermen, tax collectors, ordinary men who had no status, no great abilities, no remarkable skills. Yet Jesus walked up to them and said, follow me. And when they left everything behind to follow him, they became part of the greatest mission the world has ever known. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't have all the answers, but they had a vision from God and they obeyed. And because of their obedience, the gospel spread to the ends of the earth. And now the same God who had a vision for David, for Esther, for the disciples, he has a vision for you. You may not feel qualified. You may not feel ready. But God is not looking for perfection. He is looking for obedience. He is looking for hearts that are willing to trust him, to follow him, to say yes to his calling. Maybe you've been wondering, what is my purpose? What is my calling? What does God want from me? My friend, he wants your heart. He wants your life. He wants you to trust him enough to follow wherever he leads. Because when you step into God's vision, you step into something far greater than you could ever imagine. Some people believe they have made too many mistakes, that they have failed too many times, that their past disqualifies them from God's plan. But let me tell you that your past does not define your future. Your failures do not cancel God's calling. If he could use a man like Peter, who denied him 3 times, if he could use a man like Paul, who once persecuted Christians, then he can use you. His grace is greater than your past. His vision is greater than your mistakes. And maybe you are in a season of waiting. Maybe you feel like God has given you a vision, but nothing is happening. You are wondering when the door will open, when the opportunity will come, when the answer will arrive. But let me remind you, God's timing is perfect. David was anointed as king long before he sat on the throne. Joseph had a vision long before he entered the palace. There is always a season of preparation before the promise. So don't give up. Don't lose heart. Keep trusting, keep praying, keep believing. What God has started in your life, He will bring to completion. And maybe you are here today and you have never truly surrendered your life to Jesus. You've been searching for purpose, for meaning, for direction, but nothing in this world has satisfied you. My friend, the greatest vision you can ever receive is the vision of salvation. When you come to Jesus, He gives you a new life, a new purpose, a new direction. So today, will you say yes to His call? Will you trust His plan for your life? Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. A vision from God is not just something you receive, it is something you must commit to. It is not just a dream you admire from a distance, it is a path you must walk. And let me tell you, the journey will not always be easy. There will be obstacles. There will be challenges. There will be moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if you heard God correctly, moments when everything in you wants to turn back. But if God has given you a vision, then you must be willing to persevere. You must be willing to stay the course no matter what comes your way. Look at the men and women in the Bible who walked in God's vision. None of them had an easy road. Joseph had a vision that one day he would be a leader. But before that vision came to pass, he was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked in prison. But he never lost sight of what God had promised. He held on. He kept the faith. And in God's perfect timing, the vision was fulfilled. Look at Nehemiah. He had a vision to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. It was a noble vision, a God-given vision. But as soon as he started the work, opposition came. There were enemies who mocked him, who tried to stop him, who did everything they could to discourage him. But Nehemiah did not quit. He did not let fear or intimidation shake him. He kept his eyes on the vision. He kept building. And in the end, the walls were restored and God's purpose was accomplished. Look at Paul. He had a vision to take the gospel to the nations, to spread the message of Jesus Christ across the world. But his journey was filled with hardship. He was beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, persecuted. There were times he was hungry, times he was abandoned, times he was left for dead. But he never gave up. He never turned back because he knew the vision was worth it. He knew the calling of God was greater than the trials he faced. And at the end of his life, he was able to say, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And now the question comes to you. Will you be faithful to the vision God has given you? Will you press on even when it gets difficult? Will you stay committed even when things don't go as planned? Because the truth is, if you are going to walk in God's vision, you must have endurance. You must be willing to trust Him, even when you don't see the full picture. You must be willing to take the next step, even when you don't know exactly where the road leads. There are too many people who start strong but do not finish. They begin with passion, with excitement, with determination, but the moment things get hard, they stop. The moment opposition comes, they let go of the vision. But let me tell you today, faithfulness is the key to seeing God's vision fulfilled. It is not just about starting, it is about finishing. It is about standing firm when the enemy tries to shake you. It is about holding on when the world tells you to let go. Some of you have been walking in the vision God gave you, but you've grown weary. The obstacles have been great. The road has been long, and you've wondered if you should just give up. But I want to remind you, God is faithful. What He has started, He will complete. What He has promised, He will fulfill. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And maybe you're here today and you feel like you've already let go of the vision. Maybe you walked away because the journey became too hard. Maybe you turned back because the trials seemed too great. But the good news is, it is not too late. God is a God of restoration. He is a God of second chances. If you are still breathing, then He is not finished with you yet. So today, will you make the decision to stay the course? Will you commit to the vision God is giving you? Will you say, Lord, no matter what comes my way, I will follow you, I will trust you, I will persevere, because when you do, you will see his promises come to pass. You will see his hand move in ways you never imagined. You will see his vision fulfilled in your life. Right where you are, open your heart and say, Lord, I surrender. Lead me, guide me, use me for your glory. And when you do, you will never be the same again. My friends, the power of vision is not just in seeing, it is in believing, in trusting, in stepping forward with faith, no matter the obstacles, no matter the doubts, no matter the fears. God has placed a calling on your life, a purpose that is greater than anything you could imagine. And he is not asking for perfection. He is asking for obedience. He is asking for trust. He is asking for a heart that will say, here I am, Lord, use me. So as you walk forward, hold on to the vision. Do not be discouraged when challenges come. Do not turn back when the road gets difficult. Stay faithful, stay committed, stay strong. Because what God has promised, he will fulfill. What he has started, he will complete. May you walk in boldness. May you step forward in faith. May you trust in his plan, knowing that he is leading you into something greater than you can imagine. God bless you, and may his vision for your life come to pass. Good luck on your journey, and thank you.